Hello, and welcome to the next video in my tutorial series on how to make a 3D game in Unity. In this episode, we're going to be touching up the final stages of all our character movements and our camera controller. Let's get started. So the problem we have right now is that I can move my character and I can move my camera, but if I push forward, he goes to the side. He's not following the movements of the camera. Another problem is that the camera's rotating in this direction just a little too far, and it's flipping and it's going into the ground. So we want to fix all of that. So let's go into our Playercontroller Script, and we're going to make a couple corrections to this line right here. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that new vector. And then we're going to put transform.right, and we're going to multiply it by that, and we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to put an addition, and then we're going to go to transform.forward times that, and that should be it. So we should have transform.right times input.getAxis horizontal times the movement speed plus our transform.forward times input.getAxis vertical times movement speed. And there is one other thing we want to change in terms of our movement speed, but first I'm going to show you why we need to change it. So we're going to hit save, wait for it to compile, go back into our game, and now I can move my character with my mouse, just like so. However, if I were to hit, let's say, W and D at the same time, he has a much faster speed than if I just hit forward. And that's because we need to normalize the speed. So let's get out of that. So to do that, we're going to take out our move speed here on both sides. And in actuality, we don't even need these parentheses for anything involving that, because it's two different operations here being multiplied and then added together. So then right underneath this, we're going to put move direction, and we're going to make it equal to move direction dot normalized times move speed. So now our speed should be the same whether we're moving forward or backwards, or we're hitting both W and D, or both up and to the right arrows at the same time. So I'm going to go back into a Unity editor, let it compile, hit play, and now I should be able to go back, forward, and when I hit this, it should move the same speed. There should be no increase or decrease to the speed of the character. And that's looking good. So now let's get to work on our camera. Click on our camera script. We're going to go down here, and we're going to type if transform.position.y is less than target.position. Target.position.y. Then we're going to add some curly brackets here. So if the transform of our camera is less than or below the position of our target, and remember earlier we created this public transform called target, and in our camera we designated our player as that. So if the transform.position.y is less than the position of the target, our player, then transform.position is going to equal a new vector 3, and the three vectors in this vector 3 is going to be transform.position.x, which is just going to say wherever the x is, that time is what it's going to remain. Target dot position dot y, comma, transform dot position dot z, and semicolon at the end. So when the position of the camera goes below the position of the target, our player, it's going to automatically revert to this new position that is going to be the target position y. So we're going to hit save, go back into our game, let it compile, hit play, and now we can see as I bring my camera down, it will just stop at the ground and keep on to the target. But it flips backwards, so we have to, and inverts. So now we're going to move on to fixing that. So to understand how to go about this, we first have to go over how the Unity editor is understanding degrees. So right here, I went to my rotate tool. And the way the editor is going to understand degrees, it's going to understand this as 0 to 180 degrees. But it's going to also understand down here as 0 to negative 180 degrees. But to make things confusing, when we put it into our script, we have to put it in terms of 360 degrees. So let's do that. So first we're going to create two public floats, and we're going to call one max angle, and we're going to call the next one minimum angle. And the reason why I'm doing that is because it's easier to adjust things in the editor rather than in terms of values and numbers than it is to be able to change it when we hard code numbers into our script. So next we're going to make another if statement, and then we're going to say if pivot dot rotation dot Euler angles dot x is greater than our max angle, and when you write and in an if statement condition, you have to make sure to put two and symbols. And we're gonna basically dot, oops, not image position. You want pivot dot rotation dot Euler angles dot x is less than 180 degrees. Then what we want is pivot dot rotation is going to equal quaternion dot Euler, and it's going to be max angle, comma 0, comma 0. And it's going to end there. And this is for where we want, basically when we rotate our camera, we want to lock it in some position here, some angle here, and when it gets beyond this point between that chosen degree and 180 degrees, we want it to return to our max angle. And now we're going to do it for the other side of the circle, and we're basically, actually I'll just type it out, and pivot dot rotation dot Euler angles dot x, and that's going to be greater than 180 degrees, and oops, wrong symbol, and pivot dot rotation dot Euler angles dot x, and less than 360 plus our minimum angle. And the reason why we wrote it that way is because we're actually going to use a negative number for the minimum angle, and it's going to be subtracted from 360. Because up here we're going to have 0 to whatever, let's say 45 degrees. But when we go down here, it's going to be something between 360 and 180. So down here, let's say we picked 45 degrees in this direction, it would be 315 degrees. Plus our minimum angle. And this is basically going to pretty much be the same. Just to save on time. Only instead of max angle, we're going to have 360 plus our minimum angle. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to see how this works. So go over here into our main camera, and right here are our two angles, our max angle and our min angle. Go here and we'll just make this 45 and negative 45, and you can play around with these numbers to find out what works for you in terms of your camera movement. But the point is that we got what we wanted. I can move it all the way up here and it doesn't flip over in that direction, and I can move it down here. Probably want to fix that so it doesn't, or maybe we can have it that way so our camera can look up into the sky. We'll see how it all works out. So that's it for today. Next time we're going to get into the much more fun things like adding our attack animations, and there's much further things that are going to be a lot more fun to get into in terms of RPG gameplay. I have plans for a skill tree, inventory, and all those other things. So as always, thank you for watching. Like my video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and support me on Patreon. All links are in the description below. See you next time.